Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Orden, Mack, Bernardino, and Saltzman are present, and we have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. As always, we will start with some commission comments. Any comments from the commissioners?
Yes, I certainly do. The President and I just had the great pleasure of attending the LAPD cadet graduation this past Saturday morning, where there were, I think, 497, just almost 500 graduates into the new program. According to Chief Pachinger, approximately 7,000 people in attendance, family, friends, loved ones, supporters. It was at the USC Galen Center, which I think was a great venue for these young people to begin to plant some seeds in terms of their thinking about their future. And just a very inspiring and moving occasion. We had both our outgoing mayor, Viragosa, and our incoming mayor-elect, Garcetti, and President Nikias of USC, and Superintendent John Daisy. And it was just a very great and inspiring event. And again, I can't say enough about the outstanding leadership of Chief Pachinger in particular. We know that this is your passion, and this is an outstanding example of, on the prevention side, reaching young people at an early stage, helping them develop their leadership skills, and making sure that they are not candidates for incarceration, but that they are candidates for excellence, for pursuing their dreams and their goals. It was just a wonderful and inspiring event.
And it was an enormous commitment from command staff, from the leadership of the department, and you just saw it. You saw it with the young men and women who were leaders, who were giving the speeches, who were getting the awards for academic achievement and for service. I mean, they are volunteers and work extremely hard, and actually help to staff our department in so many different ways. So the classes, the prior classes, come to cheer on the new class, which is also another major commitment. And I want to share praise for Chief Pachinger. This was a program that was in partnership with an outside organization, and once it was taken inside our office into the department, I think it's made an enormous change. It's stepped up the game a great deal. And so congratulations.
And excuse me, on that point, if I may just interject, and this is an example, too, frankly, of the commission and the department taking a very enlightened and progressive step. Some of you will recall that we went through a period of real controversy and consternation. Once upon a time, this was a relationship with this was an Explorer Scout program that was linked to the Boy Scouts, and because of their policy of denying gays to participate in the program, this commission made an important decision. In my opinion, I recall we had some very contentious discussions. We made a decision to separate ourselves from the Explorer program, and frankly, I'm very proud of the fact that again, under Chief Pachinger's leadership, the new program, the cadet program, is frankly even bigger and better in so many ways. But it's an example of when enlightened leadership is present, what can happen. And again, that's a tribute certainly both to this commission and obviously to the leadership of the department.
If there are no other comments, we'll go to the report of the Chief of Police.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Commission. First of all, I'm grateful for the very kind comments referencing the cadet program. That you're right, it's been an enormous commitment on the part of the LAPD, and frankly, if I may, the Commission played in a very important role, in a significant role, in encouraging the department during the time of that transition to give us really the leeway to express our vision, our creativity, to transition into this program that, frankly, has the growth of which has been seismic. Since we were involved in that transition, we've graduated over 9,000 cadets from the academy, and we currently have over 6,000 that are active. And what active means is that they participate on a regular basis. I see Captain John Peters is in the audience. He's the commanding officer of Pacific area. He is but one of 26 different posts that are flourishing as a result of the department's overall commitment. Every command officer in the city, in addition to Communications Division and also Metropolitan Division, USC has become really good partners, as is the case with LAWA PD, Los Angeles World Airport Police Department. And frankly, I'm in very good discussions with Chief Zipperman from the Los Angeles School Police Department to also join this campaign. And so it has been a beautiful opportunity for us to express ourselves in terms of community outreach, youth development, and growing communities as we move forward. I would also hasten to add, if you would permit me, oftentimes my name is so frequently called as being a part of the program, but it truly isn't me. I'm just a pretty face that's involved in the program. The reality is that the staff, senior management analyst Natalie Torres, and all the other members of the Office of Operations Youth Programs Unit, who are really the fuel in this engine that allows it to drive and flourish. And so my compliments to them and the work that they've put in to drive it forward. On the issue of crime, I'm very pleased once again to report some very good results for this year to date and the prior week. For violent crime, Part 1 crime and violent crime, homicides are down 14%, sexual assaults are down 30%, robbery is down nearly 13%, and aggravated assaults are down 10.5% for a violent crime reduction year to date of 12.6%. Property crime, likewise, we're seeing some very, very favorable results. Burglaries are down 4%. Burglaries from vehicles are down 7%. Thefts from vehicles are down 4.8%. And thefts are down 7% for a property crime total reduction of 5.8%. That brings the total Part 1 crime reduction total to 7%. For point of reference, this same period last year, our reduction was 2.4%. And so we are working on what appears to be a Part 1 crime reduction pace that represents nearly 7,000 fewer Part 1 crime victims this year compared to last. By bureau, Central Bureau is down 10.2%. South Bureau, excuse me for a second. South Bureau is down 4.8%. Valley, 3.5% reduction, and West Bureau comes in at 10.8%. Likewise, in gang-related crime, there are reductions across the board. Gang-related homicides are down 27%. Aggravated assaults are down 25%. Sexual assault and robbery 25% and 18% respectively, for a total gang crime reduction of 21.5%. By bureau, the Central Bureau total is 31% reduction. South Bureau is down 19.8%. Valley Bureau is down 12.5%, and West Bureau is down 14.5%. If you would just permit me to return very quickly to the cadet piece, I would like to also make known the fact that our next cadet academy starts Saturday, July 13th. That's open to community youth from between the ages of 13 to 20. I think the members of the board are familiar with the fact that not this graduation, but 2 classes ago, we had youth that came to the academy from far away as San Diego. So we take youth from wherever they come, and we have made a commitment that we'd never turn any young person away. That would be the report of the Chief of Police. Thank you.
Madam President, if I might just comment as well on the Chief's report, and in particular the comments about the Explorer program. I really just want to thank my colleagues for bringing up the topic. I have tried to be at most of those events and was in Washington over the weekend, so couldn't be there, but I'm thrilled to hear how wonderful it was and how well the program's doing. There are certainly plenty of things to go around, starting with the Chief of Police himself, who was instrumental in helping us get to the change. Chief Pasinger, of course. And for me, just to not having been there Saturday, to sit back a little bit, listen, hear about it, hear people's reaction, just reminds me of the significance of inclusive community policing, which is exactly what this is. It's one of the many ways in which the department is reaching out to the community. We just heard about crime statistics, and there's not a direct line between the two, but it's not that far off. And so I appreciate everyone's tremendous efforts in this, and look forward to being at the very next one. So thank you very much.
And we'll now go to the report of the Executive Director.
Good morning, Madam President and members of the Commission. One brief item. The Department has requested that item 8B as in boy be continued till next week. Chief Information Officer Maggie Goodrich is on jury duty and not able to be here today. And also, I had the pleasure and honor to attend the cadet graduation at USC, and the comment I would make is the impressive nature of the number of parents and family members that were in attendance. That arena was over half filled, and that attendance probably 7,000 to 8,000 people. And Commissioner Mack and I were chatting about, you think the number of young people that were there graduating from that program who might never have had the opportunity to go to the Galen Center and to be able to sit on the floor. I think the impact on their lives for the future, whether they become involved in law enforcement or not, is tremendous. And they will never forget those weeks that they spent, and the men and women who mentored them and who they got a chance to meet. So the impact of that program is just significant. And having been in law enforcement for the years I have been, I know the impact on young people, and it is a great program. And the department deserves all the credit they receive about the impact that they've taken. I mentioned the Chief Pasinger this morning. I was going to send him an email on Father's Day, which unfortunately I forgot to say, Happy Father's Day from your 9,000 adopted kids, because he has adopted 9,000 kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Report of the Inspector General.
Thank you, Madam President. Last week I had indicated that we were going to conduct a community meeting in Venice. I just wanted to let the Commission know it was very successful. A lot of questions about the Commission, the process, the department's review of complaints and force, and the IG's role in all of that. To continue our outreach with the community, we have, as I've already discussed, set pieces throughout LAPD's footprint so that we can get out to the community and do this education piece. We are also now scheduling meetings with student organizations at various colleges. We'll be starting out at UCLA and then branching out to some of the other neighboring colleges in the area. Also wanted to let the Commission know that we had last briefed you that we were going to try to get the reports that we generate for public session immediately sent to community members and stakeholders so that individuals can be apprised of what issues are relevant during the time and what's going to be discussed at Open Commission, but also have more opportunity to kind of interact with the police department, their city council, the Commission, or myself on various law enforcement related issues. I wanted to report that we were successful in sending that out to several hundred individuals, and we are still accumulating names and email addresses so that we can make that even more robust, and hope that it'll expand way beyond that. I also wanted to let the Commission know that we are also currently in the position, because of our success with the consent decree and some of the oversight techniques that we employ, that several federal agencies and state and local agencies have been approaching us as to methods to do their own review and implement systems similar to what we have in place for LAPD. Most recently, I'd met with a couple federal agents, special agents in charge for federal agencies that were interested in such oversight. And currently also Assistant Inspector General Django Sibley is working with the Seattle Police Department in trying to fashion an oversight model to help them with their problems in settlement agreement with the Department of Justice. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much.
Question, speaking of the outreach to various colleges and universities, what's the status of the follow-up with the USC in the aftermath of the incident?
Immediately after that incident, my staff began assembling all documentation, all videos possible to try to get an initial assessment of the investigation. And we also were, during that community meeting, we're putting out contact information so that people could make complaints. Right now, I think we have about 80% of the available information, and we're working our way through that and hope to answer all relevant questions from how that initial contact occurred all the way to the end and the individual uses of force. And then my hope is once we get all this information that we'll put together a public report for the Commission analyzing what we saw throughout that entire incident and bringing any issues to the Commission for their review.
What's the projected timeline for having this report?
I'm hoping in the next couple months. A lot of it's going to depend on how quickly we can get all the relevant information and get our hands around it and do the analysis. There's a lot of layers from the initial call out to finding enough evidence for what happened with regard to the different houses, to the skirmish line and the contacts with the bulk of the students that night, and then also we're doing the individual analysis on our own of some of the use of force, independent of what the department's doing. And that's going to take some measure of time, and in order to do it, we're going to need to make sure that we have all available evidence, because as commissioners are aware that, one witness statement or one video can change the character of the analysis. I want to make sure that I have absolutely everything so that I can do a full and thorough analysis and present my conclusions to you.
Mr. Inspector General, I agree with you. We want a full analysis, and one of the thoughts I had is it might take a little longer because, school's out, and presumably a lot of the students are home or away from Los Angeles. So is there any idea of perhaps waiting until August to make sure that you get all of those reports, and has the fact that school has been out prevented you from completing this far?
It has complicated. Some of the matters, but I think we're shooting on resolving this as quickly as possible. What I can promise the Commission is that if we are going to go past that date, or if there's some other issues that we need to analyze, I'll make sure that I apprise the Commission so that they understand where our timeline is and where we are in the process.
As I understand it, regarding that's a good point that Commissioner Bernardino raised, but as I understood, there have been several follow-up meetings, though, have they not, involving some of the students who were, involved that evening, along with the department and with you?
I can't speak to...
And USC police as well?
I know the department's been doing a lot of meetings with USC and the students groups, independent.
Chief Patient,
yes.
Maybe you can...
Yes, Commissioner Mack. As a matter of fact, as recently as this morning, I spoke to Chief Thomas. He is the Chief of Police for the USC Department of Public Safety, and had an extensive conversation with him on this very issue in terms of community outreach. He, along with Chief Bob Green and also Captain Paul Snell, who's commanding officer Southwest area, have been involved in ongoing talks with various student groups in and around the USC campus for the specific purpose of developing those relationships, extending the department's the manner with which we've done business in the past with them and clarifying some of those issues, really developing the various protocols, the proper protocols in dealing with community issues in that area, the likes of which that led to that interaction that night. And so those discussions are ongoing and will continue to be ongoing as the school year approaches.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Inspector General. Number 5 is information filed items. We have listed 3 noise variance permits on file. More details in the full agenda. Special event permits on file. There are 5 of those, and there are also more details in the full agenda. And with that, are there any presentations?
Yes, Madam President, members of the Commission, there's a presentation today. I'd like to have Deputy Chief of Police Kirk Albanese come forward. Today's presentation is recognition of Mr. Erickson Guevara. I'll turn it over to Chief Albanese.
Madam President, members of the Commission, Chief Paysinger, thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. This story that I'm about to tell you, while tragic, will also serve to encourage the heart. The gentleman to my right, Mr. Erickson Guevara, and his son, Diego. Also with me, Captain Billy Hayes, a commanding officer of Robbery Homicide Division, and the 2 investigating officers, Barry Tellis, former explorer, by the way, now Detective Robbery Homicide Division, and Chris Gable, and their Lieutenant Walt Teague. On the early morning, at about 1 a.m. on the 27th of December, Violet Phillips, a 67-year-old female, was asleep on a bus bench. She's a homeless woman at Van Nuys and Sherman Way. Mr. Eric Guevara observed an individual by the name of Dennis Patillo pour a liquid on Miss Phillips and then light her a fire. Immediately after that happened, the woman jumped up, screamed, was rolling around on Van Nuys Boulevard trying to extinguish the flames, and at the same time, Mr. Patillo ran southbound on Van Nuys Boulevard. Mr. Guevara, with the only thing with him was his Bible, which he has with him today, the same Bible, elected to follow Mr. Patillo and call 911. Twice during that following, it was a 3-block following. Remind you, it's 1 a.m., it's dark. He's following this individual. There's no one else out there. The individual turns, Patillo turns twice with an 8-inch knife and threatens to cut him, Mr. Guevara. Undeterred, he continued to follow, continued to speak with the emergency board operator at Communications Division, and Van Nuys officers responded. He then worked with the Van Nuys officers and located the suspect hiding in bushes, who was taken into custody without incident. Of course, the victim in this case was eventually extinguished by some good citizens that observed her on fire. She was taken to the hospital. She had burns over 80% of her body. Critical, extremely critical condition. In fact, on this day, she is still in a rehabilitation facility in Mission Division, but doing better, and sending her love to this gentleman for helping her that evening. Because of the courage and selfless actions of Mr. Guevara, Patillo was arrested for the heinous and senseless crime. Erickson, you're a shining example of the best of humanity. Without hesitation, you risked your own safety and ensured that justice prevailed. We consider you a hero within the LAPD, and we thank you for your service. We wish you the best, and the best to Diego as well. Thank you for what you did on December 27th. It meant a lot to that woman, it meant a lot to the community, and it certainly meant a lot to the Los Angeles Police Department. Thank you very much.
It was quite extraordinary, and on behalf of the Commission, we share the words of praise and thanks. It was selfless, it was at your own risk, and it was to help another person. And we could not thank you enough, but we will give you a certificate, and it would be our honor to take a picture with you. Thank you.
hear your dad on the fire. Carlos at fire. Glasses on, glasses on. He's throwing me off. Okay. Maybe one, maybe one more, one. Okay. Okay.
All right, we go next to the consent agenda items. Is there a motion?
Move approval of consent items A through C.
Second.
And on the regular agenda items, I'm sorry, yes. Is
All
there
in
a second?
favor?
Did I hear my second?
Yes,
Yes.
second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Now for the regular agenda items, as we've heard, one is the B has been continued. Is there, and we do have our
Guess we'll pull 8C.
8C, and I'll take a motion.
Madam President, move approval of items A, D, and E.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. And we'll call up the department's report from the Pacific area, the Command Accountability Performance Audit. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief. My name is Detective Kimry from Internal Audits and Inspections Division. I was the project manager for the Detective Command Accountability Performance Audit for Pacific Division. This is the first Detective CAPA that Internal Audits and Inspections Division has completed for Pacific Division. As you can see from the table on page 2 of the audit, Pacific Division did well in the majority of the objectives that were tested. However, the audit did show that there were some areas of improvement, specifically Objective 1B, which is the evaluation of search and RAMI warrants, and Objective 4A, which is the evaluation of supervisory bypasses, which is the 17B4. This issue has come up in other detective cap audits, and I believe that the Commission is aware that there is currently a working group in place to address some of the issues. In fact, I believe the last meeting for the working group was last week, and they're preparing to present recommendations to the District Attorney and City Attorney's Office in hopes to clarify that issue. If there are any questions about the mechanics or how the audit was conducted, I'll answer any of those questions that you might have. If not, I'd like to turn it over to Captain Peters to discuss with you the things that he's put in place to address the findings. Yes, sir.
I just have one area of inquiry. In the first one, evaluation of detective case envelopes, murder books,
Yes,
you
sir.
had 82%, which is above the standard, but still not as high as I would like to see in this area. But I didn't see a reference here to what the issue was in regards to this. Were the murder books incomplete? I couldn't understand.
There's first off, with murder books for Pacific Division, West Bureau homicide is centralized. It's not in the individual divisions. So for this purpose of this audit, we didn't actually look at any specific murder books. The findings that were located in that objective were from detective work product or the case packages. And as outlined in the different findings in the audit under that heading, they range different things. I know that off the top of my head, a couple were missing notification of Marcy's Law, which is required by the manual. I can't really tell you right off the top of my head what all of the findings were, but those were a couple of the findings that we came across.
Okay. So the murder books weren't impacted? There wasn't any?
No, sir, we didn't, not for this. If the homicide division, if the homicide unit is not at the division, we don't look at it because they're centralized in another area.
All right, thank you.
Sir.
Captain Peters?
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is John Peters. I'm the commanding officer for Pacific Area, and I'm joined today by Lieutenant David Crew, who is the commanding officer of Pacific Detective Division. I'd like to begin by first just thanking the personnel from Internal Audits and Inspections Division for the work that they did. We felt very fortunate to be selected as a part of this CAPA audit. It really goes to what we embrace over at Pacific Area of our department's core value of quality through continuous improvement. This is in fact where, the words become actions, and although we've enjoyed many successes at Pacific Area in the last 3.5 years that I've been there, we recognize that there's always room for improvement. With that, as it goes specific to the findings in the audit, in each instance where a Pacific Detective's work product was regarded as out of compliance, the involved employees were provided informal or formal training to improve performance, accuracy, and adherence with the California Penal Code and the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting, and also the department policy. Additionally, Pacific Detective Division held several divisional trainings for all detective personnel. During that training, a detective handbook was distributed, which contained, among other items, exemplars with highlighted areas of mandatory completion and proper formatting of reports. Moreover, given the many areas that resulted in noncompliance were a result of inattention to detail, the topic of accountability was reinforced, informal discussions of supervisory expectations and responsibilities. Pacific Detective Division has also put into effect a more intensive review process, which includes one-on-one training for table coordinators and to conduct final review and stringent approval process for all detective work product to be conducted by the Detective Division Commanding Officer or his administrative staff. And finally, Pacific Detective Division has established an informal, recurring internal auditing schedule to ensure law, policy, and procedural compliance with all the detective work product. If you'd like any more specifics on any of that, those details, I could turn it over to Lieutenant Crew. As it goes to the two major areas where we fell short, the 17B4 has been talked about, and I think that you're aware of the issues there. The other one had to do with the evaluation of the search and Ramey warrants. With the audit, the sample size was very small. There was only 5 that were looked at, and with that, three met the standard and 2 did not. One had to do with return of a search warrant being 1 day late, and the other one had to do with documented evidence recovered during the arrest. The evidence was on the same property report as evidence that was recovered during the ensuing search warrant. So those were the two shortcomings there, and as we've noted, mostly has to do with inattention to detail. Lastly, and just to, in the spirit of full disclosure, but not to offer any excuses, Pacific Detective Division has undergone a lot of personnel changes in the last 3 years. Lieutenant Crew is the 3rd detective commanding officer that we've had in 3 years, and in there was a 5-month gap where we did not have a detective CO, and that was overseen by a detective 3. And also we had 4 detective adjutants that had kind of worked their way through. So I think with that inconsistency in personnel, it led to some problems that were exposed during this audit, and we're fortunate because of that. And I'm very confident that with the processes, the systems that Lieutenant Crew has put into place now, that future audits would show it either even greater compliance.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you. I don't think we have any other questions. Did you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Bernardino, I apologize. I misspoke when I talked to you about the findings. The findings that we found for the Objective 1A that we were discussing involved a booking approval, information on booking approval, and documentation of MT. I do so many of these, sometimes I get them confused. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you, and thank you for your prompt attention. Obviously, we hope that the 17B4 problem can be remedied. That is an important part, I think, to determine if there should be a change in policy even. But hopefully, department-wide, we'll get a handle on that soon.
Absolutely. I move approval of regular agenda item 8C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you.
All right, we go now to public comment, and I'm going to turn it over just for a moment to Vice President while I take a quick call. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Yes, we have 10 public comment cards.
Okay.
We begin with Mr. Daniel Jones, Barbara Lott Holland, Elizabeth Blaney, Jamie Garcia, and Alice Arkless. Mr. Jones?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Daniel Jones.
Morning.
This is in the context, you can't fool everybody all the time about everything. On October 1st at 10:29 p.m. in 2011, there's an insurrection in the state of California. Sir, the law states, Part 1, Part 145, violation of martial law, state militia laws. Anybody who participates or takes part in any rebellion, insurrection, tumult, or riot, it was a riot to get those people out of there, or who is party to any conspiracy or combination to resist by force the execution of the laws, or who resists or who aids in resisting in the execution in the process, this is where you're all in trouble, in any county or city to be declared, past tense, means it's after the fact, in a state of insurrection. Did you tell the chief of police that it was, this is state law right here. Did you have anybody tell him that? I mean, what's the point of anybody raising their right hand to take the oath and to sit there and to create and endanger people's public safety, use of resources, and as far as I'm concerned, aided and provided comfort to any enemy of the state, because they're probably sitting over there somewhere laughing at us, and that's comfort to me. For 52 days, as a whole, there was a decision that should have never been questioned at all. Thank you.
Barbara Lott Holland. Elizabeth Blaney.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Elizabeth Blaney, and I work with Unión de Vecinos, as well as the LA Right to Housing Collaborative. We're here today to ask your support for our right to organize under the First Amendment rights. As a commission that has stated that it cares about the constitutional rights of the citizens and residents of Los Angeles as opposed to political targeting, we ask the commission to investigate the targeting of community-based organizations. There'll be several speakers today that will be referencing various emails of communication back and forth between the CCEA and the police department regarding a specific targeting of a specific organization. And so I have here copies of those emails. I don't know how I present that to you, but
The officer, ma'am.
and there are copies for each of you so that you'll be able to follow and understand specifically what we're asking for. But we do ask your support in investigating this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie Garcia.
Hello, my name is Jamie Garcia, and I'm a member of the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. In the case of Deborah Burton, the LA Human Rights Collective is demanding that if LAPD is, as it has claimed, now reformed and worthy of the new freedom offered by the lifting the consent decree this past May, then the department must investigate our allegations of faulty evidence. The consent decree was put in place by the federal government in 2001 because LAPD was involved in serious misconduct, corruption, and abuse of power in the Rampart Division. Is it business as usual with the new reformed LAPD? Beginning in June 2011, Lieutenant Paulson and Estela Lopez of the CCEA are in continual email communication about coordinating the Skid Row Walk. For example, Estela writes to Paulson, "Hello, my friend. At Officer Ritker's suggestion, I have obtained the use of 36-passenger Union Rescue Mission shuttle. Obviously, our intent is to throw off LA Can." Steve Kaiser of the CCEA writes to Lieutenant Paulson, The CCEA attorney is continuing to explore options for some type of restraining order against LA Can. He is concerned that if we attempt to do this and do not have sufficient grounds to convince the judge, it may further embolden LA Can in their disruptive actions. He was requesting you and I do a conference call with him regarding strategies for the next month's walk. He is especially interested in whether you would be willing to take action on the excessive noise use by LA Can, such as in violation 5157 LAMC. Would you be willing to cite and take the bullhorns, drums, or other excessive noise devices as evidence? Lieutenant Paulson arrests Pete White at the next Skid Row walk. LAPD officer Jack Richter also communicates with Estela Lopez and other CCEA representatives about planning and coordination of the Skid Row walk and infers it as an LAPD event in planning emails. Officer Richter tells Steve Kaiser of the CCEA, I suggest we tell no one else. We start our walk as usual and then step aboard the bus and drive away to the warehouse tour from here, and we start our walk to return to the midnight mission. So who exactly is LAPD protecting and serving, and at whose expense?
Thank you.
Alice Arkless.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is Ellis Arkless. I'm a representative of the Labor Community Strategy Center, Bus Drivers Union, and Community Rights Campaign. Over the last few months this year, Lieutenant Paulson lists LA Can's campaign of intimidation and harassment, referencing the legal protests in her quarterly Safer Cities Initiative reports in the section, specific problems section, along with drug and alcohol-related offensive negative issues regarding parolees. Because of her assessment of legal protests activities, LAPD began to videotape their protests. Lieutenant Paulson submitted several of these videos. With her police report with this alleged crime, Deborah Burton blew an air horn directly into Estela Lopez's ear. Not one of these videos shows that this incident actually happened. There was 4 cameras at this time, and none of them caught it. Midnight Mission has security camera pointing directly at the spot of the alleged crime, yet LAPD did not secure or release that video. When requested by Deborah's attorneys, the tapes had already been recorded over. And thank you.
Thank you.
And the next 5 speakers are Emilio Laquez, Leonardo Vilches, Deborah Burton, Hamid Khan, and Adam Ryle.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Emilio, and I'm an organizer with the Youth Justice Coalition. Our mission is to end the mass incarceration, criminalization, and deportation of youth of color in LA County. We're here standing 100% in full solidarity and support of Deborah Burton of the LA Community Action Network and a proud member of the LA Human Rights Collective. This case against Ms. Burton with faulty evidence by Lieutenant Paulson is an attempt to target, suppress, silence, and criminalize a peaceful, hardworking, loving, powerful, and intelligent grandmother and woman of color and an organizer that I've had the pleasure of working with. Our demands are very clear, and we want you to understand them. 1, a thorough investigation of this case and a rescission of the faulty evidence presented by Lieutenant Paulson, which eventually led to the charges filed against Deborah Burton. 2, that all charges against Deborah Burton be dropped immediately. And 3, an end to all aggressive prosecution of community organizers, movement builders, and human rights defenders. Our collective communities that are working and organizing on a daily basis to defend human rights for all people should be the ones being celebrated, not the ones being targeted. The Youth Justice Coalition also demands an end to police compliance with gang databases, which also leads more people into the court system and racist gang enhancements. We also demand a private investigator for all cases where police officers have shot and killed community members. Please stop the targeting and criminalization, and we are in full support and have our demands clear. We hope you will look at the evidence and look further into this case around Lieutenant Paulson and Deborah Burton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Leonardo Vilchis, and I'm a director of the Unión de Vecinos. So Deborah Burton was not arrested at the June 2011 protest and safety walk. Lieutenant Paulson and many other LAPD officers were there. Instead, she received a letter 15 months later. So we're talking about a big gap of time before she was picked for alleged attacks. During this gap of time, Lieutenant Paulson continually communicated with multiple representatives of the City Attorney's Office, blatantly expressing her intent to stop LA County's legal protest through criminal charges. For example, he states in one of the emails, "I'm up against the wall with the next Skid Row meeting and walk to take place next week," which is in August 3rd. And if there is any feedback on how to handle arrests differently or how to improve the report for the CA filing, it is more than welcome. So she's asking for instructions for the City Attorney to prosecute people. That sounds like conspiracy to me. This is going to be an ongoing problem until it gets too costly for them. Again, trying to create a problem for a legally protesting entity within the city exercising its civil rights. It may be forced to make multiple arrests next week, and under the circumstances, I'm honestly considering seeking bookings and prosecutions for conspiracy, as I can obviously approve collusion and organization coordination on the part of a few individuals. Again, preemptively establishing what are going to be the charges. In July 2011, Lieutenant Paulson emails Estela Lopez and says, "For your information, I will be contacting Ref Bales, Orlando Ward, and whoever else I can think of on Tuesday to see about their willingness to be listed." Let me repeat this. I can think of on Tuesday to see about their willingness to be listed on a crime report as witnesses or victims for the noise or assaults, etc. So basically, she's looking for victims, asking people if they want to be victims. What I understand from this statement is that you have to have integrity on everything that you say and you do. Lieutenant Paulson is not acting with integrity, and by default, the LAPD is not acting with integrity. We ask you to investigate the behavior of Lieutenant Paulson in everything that she's doing and whether she's targeting LA County.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am Deborah Burton.
Good morning.
I'm a Skid Row resident. I'm a community organizer. Community organizing and public protests are not crimes, though LAPD and the city attorney are trying to say they are, and are prosecuting me for just speaking out on behalf of my community. It is not a crime to care about and defend our communities. I believe community organizing creates change, and I'm committed to organizing and fighting for our rights to organize for the rest of my life. I will not be threatened. I am not scared. I am proud to be here in solidarity today with community organizers from throughout the city of LA, fighting for our rights to organize, fighting for human rights in Los Angeles and beyond, and demanding accountability from the LAPD commissioners and overseeing LAPD action and correct wrongful action. I'm asking you to investigate the evidence submitted by Lieutenant Paulson in my case before my trial starts on June the 26th. Thank you.
Hamid Khan. We're at.
Hello, my name is Adam Rice. Hamid's next. The woman you've just heard from is one of the best people I've ever met. This woman puts herself on the line to fight for her community. But the sad thing is she shouldn't have to do that. She puts herself on the line against your officers. Now, you just honored a brother for chasing a suspect down the street and apprehending him. Well, other citizens put out the woman that was on fire in Van Nuys. But where were the police? Well, let me tell you. They were a block away, 200 of them, with armored vehicles and about 50 extra sheriffs to evict one family who was peacefully protesting their eviction from their home at 14620 Leadwell Street. That's where your officers were when this woman was attacked. What we're asking here is to protect and serve. What does that mean? Who do the LAPD protect and serve? Do you protect the people, or do you protect those in power? This is a question you must ask yourselves. Because if you continue to serve those in power, you will continue to have an adversarial relationship with amazing people like Deborah Burton. Because you have an adversarial relationship with the people of your city. That's all I had to say. All power to the people.
Hamid Khan.
All those who believe in the rights of human rights to protest and defend our rights, stand up, please. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Hamid Khan with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition and a member of the Los Angeles Human Rights Collective. Deborah Burton is not only fighting for people's rights in Los Angeles, she was invited by the UN in Geneva by the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights to come and speak to the rest of the world over there as well. So we are here today as residents of Los Angeles, as human rights defenders, as social justice activists, demanding that the LAPD Commission act immediately to investigate and rescind the faulty evidence used in charges against Deborah Burton, a 61-year-old grandmother and community organizer who's being unjustly charged with 3 counts of assault for alleged actions during a perfectly legal protest. Burton's trial is set to begin on June 26th. Protest has been at the core of all struggles and fights for equality and fundamental human rights. Yet the assault on political dissent and protest remains an ongoing tactic and tradition of the LAPD. Burton has been charged with 3 counts of assault for alleged actions. She was not, which happened on June 1st of 2011. She was not charged until August of 2012, 14 months later. And public records show that in the interim period months, LAPD and the Central City East Association jointly lobbied the city attorney to criminally charge Los Angeles Community Action Network members involved in a monthly legal protest at the CCA's Skid Row Walk. Just give you a quick example where Lieutenant Paulson tells the city attorney that she needs information about the filing and documentation of cases related to the public safety walk because, and I quote, "this is going to be an ongoing problem until it gets too costly for them," meaning LA can. Lieutenant Shannon Paulson abused her power and misstated evidence in the pending case against Deborah Burton. We demand a thorough investigation and the rescinding of the faulty evidence presented by LAPD Lieutenant Paulson, which eventually led to the charges filed against Deborah Burton. We demand that all charges against Deborah be immediately dropped, and we demand an end to the aggressive prosecution of human rights defender. Thank you.
Madam President, that is the final comment card.
Thank you. And with that, we will recess for our closed session items, which are listed in your agenda.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 10A1 and 10A2 in accordance with Government Code 54957. You don't need it for upstairs? I don't need it for upstairs. Session item number 10A1 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 10A2 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. Madam President, is there a motion for adjournment?
Adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Hi, I'm Rasha Goel.
And I'm James Ramirez. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to Latitude, the place to find out what's happening in the shipping, cargo, and cruise industries that drive business at the Port of Los Angeles.
Including the technologies, trends, and opportunities taking place at North America's largest cargo gateway, and what it all means for our customers and industry stakeholders across the country and around the world.
Whether your need is ocean shipping, a distribution center, warehouse space, export assistance, or foreign trade zone information, the Port of Los Angeles can be a resource to you and help you grow your business. And now it's time to get started exploring this edition of Latitude. We're glad you joined us. When most of us think about leading rail carriers, we think about lines that haul cargo thousands of miles across dozens of states. However, one of the leading railroads in the country never leaves the Port of Los Angeles. But as the lowest polluting railroad in the U.S., Pacific Harbor Line is truly a leader. At the Port of Los Angeles since 1998, Pacific Harbor Line, part of the Anacostia and Pacific Company, operates 24 hours a day, providing the rail transportation, maintenance, and dispatching services